Anthony Scaramucci here has a new book out called Trump, the Blue Collar President. Now, I've actually read most of this book. I haven't got to the end. I really have read it, and I absolutely love it. I really want to recommend it to everyone. You've got to get this book. It's incredibly well written. It's clearly written by him, not by some anonymous, whoever it may be. It's very personal, and it's really, really interesting. One of the things that I found really fascinating was this kind of surprising connection between you and the president in construction, the construction business, an absolutely classic blue-collar business. And that's the world I grew up in too. My stepfather was a construction worker. I'd go on construction sites. My first job was a project manager on a construction site. There's something about that, isn't there, that just teaches you the basics.
Yeah, and you got to get up early, you got to get on time, you have to pull together in a team. And Fred Trump, I did a lot of research on the Trump family, and Fred Trump pushed Donald J. Trump to do those sorts of things. And I was talking to the president today about how they used to knock on doors to collect rent, and if there was a blue-collar worker in one of their apartment complexes that couldn't pay the rent that month, let's say they were laid off or something like that, the president and his dad were always cool about it. Like, okay, no problem, you're an honorable person, let's see if you can make the rent next month, and we'll wait. You don't hear those stories about the family. And the president, he's driving around in his big Cadillac at age 25, and he's taking coins out of laundry facilities and vending machines at his dad's place. And so it just brought him in touch with that common experience. And if you were on the campaign trail with the president, I did 26 campaign stops with him. He did about 170. You can say he genuinely loved these people, and they loved him back. And so, my Democratic friends are upset about all this stuff. A lot of that anger and that nastiness is coming from that. He stole their traditional base. They didn't even go to Wisconsin. You just have to think about the alacrity of that. You've got the Speaker of the House is from Wisconsin. There's a red guy by the name of Scott Walker in Wisconsin. But the consultancy said, no, you guys own that state. They're all blue-collar people. Don't have to go there. And so my book is about how he saw that when there were 17 or 18 different elites that frankly didn't. Yes. But I do also point out that Bernie Sanders saw it.
That's exactly right. And I make this point often on this show.
There were two candidates that actually saw it. But the president won out because America is a center-right country as it relates to business and it relates to generating your own open economic incentives.
But the populist left, have a very similar analysis, which I agree with about what's gone wrong. It's just that the solutions, I think, are wrong and end up being counterproductive. Now, Sarah, the thing, I don't want to embarrass you, but I think you were the real pioneer of this modern populism. And I just want to remind everyone, if you don't mind, of what there's done. Before we play this, just hang on a second. You may not know, I was literally there on the floor of the convention center in 2008. And that's the moment I thought, wow, this is really something. This is interesting and different. And it was the beginning, I think, of this populist moment. Let's have a look.
I've learned quickly these last few days that if you're not a member in good standing of the Washington elite, then some in the media consider a candidate unqualified for that reason alone. Here's a little news flash for those reporters and commentators. I'm not going to Washington to seek their good opinion. I guess a small-town mayor is sort of like a community organizer, except that you have actual responsibilities. I might add that in small towns, we don't quite know what to make of a candidate who lavishes praise on working people when they're listening, and then talks about how bitterly they cling to their religion and guns when those people aren't listening.
Incredibly powerful. The populist revolution, how do you think it's going?
Thankfully, it's caught steam. I mean, it barreled across the country in 2016, and it's so wonderful to have nothing to lose but to get out there and speak truth and speak candidly, and that's what I believe that our president is in that same boat. I'm convinced that it's men and women in Carhartts and steel-toed boots who built and are building this country, and unfortunately, it's men and women in the suits and ties that are tearing it down too often. So those people, the grassroots of this country, they have more common sense in their little finger than most of those politicians up on the Hill do. And we need to listen to them. But, Anthony, maybe you can educate me on this. I have always believed that there is some kind of inherent disconnect, though, in the wealthy in how they perceive things and how they're connected to practical things in our daily lives, you know, compared to Joe Blow six-pack. Like, take the wealthy like Nancy Pelosi. Please, take Nancy. Nancy Pelosi. She's making decisions on our oil development opportunities in the country, right? And yet, does she understand the effects of her decisions on how it affects our pocketbooks? Because when was the last time she ever went and, you know, realized the price of gas, fueled up her own tank, you know? Probably. When was the last time she's gone into a grocery store and then made her family a meal that maybe she had to shoot first? When was the last time she has really understood what it is that they in the bubble are doing that affect our daily lives? And they're blessed with wealth, so they don't have to deal with a lot of the stuff, the struggle.
You're going to have to, I think the answer to that question is going to have to be buy Anthony's book, because it's all in there, how the president who's very wealthy can understand that.
But I do admit that on my path, my own financial independence, I started losing my ear. And it was the Trump
that's why the book is so great, because you
campaign that
reflect
brought
on
me
that.
back down to earth.
He reflects on that. It's really great. By the way, shooting your own meal, that reminds me of my great friend Joe Rogan, who's a big advocate of that. Never done it myself.